Mr. Secretary, you have presided over the worst foreign policy disaster of modern times. When Joe Biden became president, he inherited peace and prosperity in the world. We now have two simultaneous wars waging, the worst war in Europe since World War II and the worst war in the Middle East in 50 years. Both, I believe, were caused by this administration's consistent weakness. And indeed, your foreign policy is precisely backwards from what a rational American foreign policy should be. To our friends and allies, this administration has consistently undermined, weakened, and attacked them. And to our enemies, this administration has shown constant appeasement and indeed has flowed billions of dollars to the enemies of America who want to kill us. Senator Barrasso asked you about Ibrahim Raisi. Your State Department put out a statement sending condolences for his death. Mr. Secretary, is the world better today now that Raisi is dead?
Given the horrible acts that he engaged in both as a judge and as president, to the extent he can no longer engage in them, yes, the Iranian people are probably better off.
You didn't say that in your statement, did you?
I believe that we did. And certainly our spokesperson...
Today, the United Nations is flying their flag at half-staff to mourn the death. Would you agree that it is utterly disgraceful for the United Nations to be mourning the death of the butcher of Tehran?
We're certainly not mourning his death. As I said, we expressed...
Would you agree it's disgraceful for the UN to be?
I'll look at what they've done. We certainly would not do that.
What they've done is flown the flag at half-staff. Is that disgraceful?
We wouldn't do that, and we would certainly find that...
And I would note that's the absence of American leadership. All right, let's shift. The Washington Post on May 11th wrote an article. I'm going to read the opening paragraph. The Biden administration, working urgently to stave off a full-scale Israeli invasion of Rafah, is offering Israel valuable assistance in an effort to persuade it to hold back, including sensitive intelligence to help the Israeli military pinpoint the location of Hamas leaders and find the group's hidden tunnels, according to 4 people familiar with the U.S. offers. Is that paragraph accurate?
Exactly the opposite. First of all, no one has done more to defend Israel than Joe Biden.
Is that paragraph accurate?
Let me finish, if I may, please. He was there right after.
I'm not interested in a campaign speech. I have limited time. Is the paragraph in the Washington Post accurate?
As you read it, no. To the contrary, we're providing everything we possibly can to Israel to help them find.
So the 4 sources that briefed the Post, and by the way, briefed multiple other media outlets, they were lying?
Absolutely.
So, all right, so that, did the administration offer to provide the locations of senior Hamas leaders to Israel if they didn't invade Rafah?
That's, again, totally misleading and wrong. Here's what we've said, and here's what we're doing. We have said that there is a better way to deal with the challenge that...
I'm not interested in the speech.
If you don't want to hear my answer...
Did you offer the location of senior Hamas officials if they didn't invade Rafah? That's a yes or no.
If we had the locations, of course we'd provide them, irrespective.
So this statement, you're saying the Post got it totally wrong, it is utterly false, and anyone who said to the contrary was lying and perjuring themselves if they were under oath.
That statement is incorrect. We have done and will continue to do everything we can to, if we can do it, develop the information and share the information. I wish we had it.
Does the administration have intelligence on the locations of Hamas officials that you have not shared with Israel?
No.
Does the administration have the locations of Hamas terror tunnels that you have not shared with Israel?
No.
Okay, so then your position is that this story is an utter and complete lie.
As you've read it to me, Senator, it's not. It is not accurate.
And we're not interested in playing word games. I've asked you very directly.
I have not.
So you're saying there's not a single Hamas leader that you know about that you or the administration has offered will tell you where they are if you don't invade Rafah.
That is correct.
What have you offered them not to invade Rafah?
We've offered them nothing not to invade Rafah except a plan to deal more effectively with Rafah.
Okay, so your testimony under oath is you've offered them nothing not to invade Rafah. I find that very hard to believe, but I just want to understand what your testimony is.
I'll be very clear. We have told them, we've been engaged in a long conversation with them about the most effective way to deal with the problem we agree must be dealt with.
They are quite aware you disagree with their plan to kill the Hamas terrorists because you and the president have vocally said it. And to be clear, your State Department on the morning of October 7th, sent out a tweet telling Israel not to engage in military retaliation. I called you out at 3 in the morning, and you deleted that tweet. The next day, you personally, on October 8th, sent a tweet saying you'd spoken with the Turkish foreign minister and Israel should not retaliate. From the very beginning, the Biden administration has consistently at every stage told Israel, and by the way, when I called your tweet out, you deleted it again. At every stage, you have been telling Israel, do not kill the terrorist, and that has been from day one.
Senator, I was in Israel 5 days after October 7th. I've been there 7 times since. No one, starting with President Biden, has done more to make sure they have what they need to defend themselves from Hamas, to deal with the threat that Hamas poses.
With all due respect, that is ludicrous. That is ludicrous. Why have you cut off weapons to Israel then?
We have not cut off weapons to Israel. In fact, as you know well, starting many years ago, President Biden was at the heart of the MOU that led to Israel having a 10-year guaranteed supply of assistance. When you became
Secretary of State, how much oil was Iran selling a day?
I'll have to come back to you on any numbers. I don't have the numbers.
You don't know. It doesn't surprise me you don't know. It was about 300,000. How much oil is Iran selling today?
We've applied sanctions against more than 200 entities that are engaged in petrochemicals.
How much oil?
You can tell me. I'm sure.
Don't filibuster.
You know. I'm not filibustering.
How much oil are they selling today? Do you know?
You tell me.
Apparently you don't know. So you don't know how much they were selling. It was 300,000. Today they're selling about 2 million barrels a day. Let me ask you.
And given the sanctions, given the export controls, given the other controls we put on, the cost of doing that, the evasion that they have to engage in, which we're trying to cut off.
They've made about $80 billion. Let me ask you another question. I'm running out of time, so I'm not interested in speeches. Let me ask you this. How many Ghost Fleet ships did Iran have in November 2020?
We have sanctioned more than 200
It's a question.
of those.
I'm not. How many did they have?
The total number, I can't tell you what it had in 2021. I'll come back to you with that. But we have.
The number was about 70.
Yeah,
how many did they have today?
We blocked about 50 of them.
Okay, let's see how effective you are. How many do they have today?
As I said, we blocked about 50 of them.
How many do they have today?
You tell me. I'm sure you.
They have about over 400. Look, this administration desperately wants a new Iran deal. You have been showering cash on Iran from day one. And understand, the $6 billion you were asked about is the tip of the iceberg. By refusing to enforce oil sanctions, we have seen Iran's oil sales go from 300,000 barrels a day when you got into office to over 2 million barrels a day today. That's $80 billion. 90% of Hamas's funding comes from Iran in a very real sense. This administration, you and President Biden, funded the October 7th attacks by flowing $100 billion to a homicidal, genocidal regime that funded those attacks.
That statement is profoundly wrong.
Why?
I'm not even going to humor it. I think it's a disgraceful statement.
Why?
We have gone at Iran repeatedly with more than 600 sanctions applied against different persons.
Then why are they selling 2 million barrels a day as compared to 300,000?
They are working hard to do what they can to get around the sanctions.
So just the prior administration had tools you didn't have, they were more effective, or maybe they just weren't desperate to cut a deal with Iran.
And we continue every single day to go at them.
You are refusing to address the facts.
I'm not.
Then why are they selling 2 million barrels a day?
Because they're determined to try to do that. We're determined to cut them off.
They weren't determined when Trump was president?
They were determined. And, of course, unfortunately, we also had their nuclear program in a box. No fissile material being produced.
Okay, you're not answering the question. You're filibustering another topic.
Senator Cruz, you get the last word. You get the last word. Really.
You funded our enemies and you undermine our friends, and the world is much, much more dangerous as a result, and Americans are at greater jeopardy because of it.
In fact, we brought more countries together. We have stronger allies, stronger partnerships, stronger engagement from countries around the world to deal with a very dangerous world than we had. We were alone. We aren't anymore. And America is leading those efforts.
Remember the Abraham Accords?
I do.
Let me just break you two apart for a second.